Hello everyone. Today, let's dive into an important part of India's history kingship and the types of government in ancient India. This topic not only tells us about how rulers governed, but also sheds light on the foundation of leadership, ethics, and responsibility in our ancient culture. Let's get started. Kingship in ancient India. In ancient India, kingship was not just about ruling over a kingdom, it was a sacred responsibility. The king was seen as more than just a political leader, he was considered a divinely appointed figure. His primary role was to ensure that he ruled according to dharma or righteousness. Now, what does that this mean? Dharma refers to justice, fairness, and maintaining the balance of society. A king had to ensure peace, justice, and prosperity for his subjects. However, being a king wasn't easy. Let's explore the responsibilities of a king. Number one, divine rights of king. Many ancient texts like the Vedas and the Mahabharata mention that kings were chosen by divine will. This idea was reinforced by grand rituals like the Rajasuya Yagna and the Ashwamedha Yagna, where the king's authority was blessed and legitimized. These ceremonies symbolize the king's duty to protect his kingdom and uphold morality. Secondly, the king was seen as protector of the people. The king was seen as a guardian. Just as a father protects his family, the king protected his subjects. This included defending the kingdom from enemies, ensuring law and order, and promoting the welfare of all citizens. Thirdly, the king supposed to rule by dharma. The king was expected to govern ethically. He was not above the law, but rather a servant of it. The great political thinker Kautilya, in his Arthashastra, emphasized that a king should always prioritize the welfare of his people over personal gain. Think about the great Emperor Ashoka. After the Kalinga War, he transformed into a ruler guided by Dharma, spreading the message of non-violence and justice across his empire. So, after kingship, now we are going to the types of government in ancient India. India's political landscape in ancient times was diverse. It wasn't just about monarchies. Different regions experimented with various systems of governance, including monarchies, oligarchies, and even republics. So, therefore, let's break this down. Monarchy. Monarchy was the most common form of government in ancient India, where a king ruled the land. But not all monarchies were the same. There were two main types: absolute monarchy and limited monarchy. Absolute monarchy, it is where the king held complete power. He controlled the army, made laws, and ensured justice. For instance, the Maurya and Gupta empires were examples of absolute monarchies. King like Chandragupta Maurya and Samudragupta had centralized control over vast territories. The next one is limited monarchy. In some cases, the king's power was not absolute. Advisory councils or influential elites would guide or even restrict the king's decision. While the king was still the final authority, his decisions were often influenced by these groups. The second types of governance was oligarchy. Now, what is this oligarchy? Oligarchy is a system where a small group of people or families hold power. Unlike monarchy, there was no single ruler. Instead, power was concentrated in the hands of a few. Characteristics of oligarchy includes a small elite group made decisions for everyone. Ordinary people had little to no say. It was often controlled by wealthy or influential families. A famous example of oligarchy governance in ancient India was seen in the Gana Sanghas, where a few powerful clans ruled together. Let's also relate this to the modern world. In medieval Europe, aristocracies, which is another type of oligarchy, were common, where the wealthy class controlled governance. A modern example of oligarchy can be seen in some nations where the rich or elite dominated politics and decision making. We come to the next type of government, and that is republic, or in other words we can say Gana Sanghas. Surprisingly, ancient India was one of the earliest civilizations to have republics, also called Gana Sanghas. Here, power was not hereditary. Instead, decisions were made by a council of representatives. So, how did it work? In republics like the Lichavis of Vaishali or the Shakyas of Kapilavatsu, which is Lord Buddha's birthplace, governance was collective. A group of leaders, often elders or aristocrats, would make decisions. Leadership was not passed down in families, and discussions happened through assemblies. So, what is the importance of republic then? These systems were early form of democracy. Leaders were chosen by consensus and the power was shared. However, this also meant that disagreements could lead to instability. Did you know that the modern idea of democracy is similar to these ancient republics? While today we vote for leaders, in those times people selected representatives through assemblies. So let us learn about republic as a modern concept. Fast forward to today. Many countries, including India, are democratic republic. But but what does this mean? This means that number one, people are sovereign. In India, we elect our leaders through elections like the Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha polls. However, once the government is formed, it operates under the rules of the constitutions. The constitution protects the rights of all citizens, including minorities, and ensures that no one misuses power. Number two, fixed tenure and elections, or we can say periodic elections. Leaders in a republic have fixed term. For example, the President of India is elected for 5 years. Elections ensure that power keeps circulating and no one remains in office indefinitely. Thirdly, it's the supremacy of the Constitution. The Constitution is the highest authority in a republic. For instance, in India, the Supreme Court can strike down laws if they go against the constitution, ensuring check and balances. An excellent example is the United States, where the president has a fixed term and is accountable to the people. On the other hand, in undemocratic republics like China, leaders may stay in power without regular elections. To sum up, kingship and governance in ancient India were deeply influenced by ethics, culture, and collective decision making. While monarchies emphasized the king's sacred duty to rule justly, systems like oligarchies and republics brought diverse methods of governance. Today, we see echoes of these systems in modern democratic republics like India. Thank you for joining me on this journey through India's fascinating political history. See you in the next session.